I want you to vividly imagine this scenario. You are at a networking event, or maybe a first date, or even just stuck in an elevator with a coworker you barely know. You start with the basics. You ask, "How are you?" They say, "Good." You ask, "What do you do?" They say, "I'm an accountant." You say, "Cool." And then silence. Your brain begins scrambling, frantically searching for something, anything, to say next. You start sweating a little bit. You look around the room, and eventually, you just mumble something about the weather or excuse yourself to go to the bathroom just to escape the awkwardness. We have all been there. It is painful. It makes you feel uncharismatic, awkward, and socially inept. But here is the truth. The problem isn't that you aren't interesting. The problem isn't that you don't have good stories. The problem is that you are viewing conversation as a series of questions and answers instead of what it actually is, a web. Today, I am going to teach you the single most powerful social dynamic technique I have ever learned. It is called threading. And once you understand how this works, I promise you, you will never run out of things to say ever again. You could talk to a brick wall for an hour if you had to. So, what is threading? Most people converse in what I call interview mode. This is the death of connection. In interview mode, the conversation looks like a tennis match where only one person is serving. You ask a question, they give an answer. You ask another question, they give another answer. Where are you from? Chicago. Oh, nice. How long have you lived there? About 2 years. Cool. Do you like it? Yeah, it's okay. This is exhausting. You are doing all the heavy lifting. You are burning through topics at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and eventually you will run out of questions. Threading is different. Threading is the ability to listen to a sentence and see the multiple different paths, or threads, that branch off from it. Imagine every sentence someone speaks is like a piece of rope, but the end of that rope is frayed. It has 3 or 4 little loose strings hanging off the end. Your job isn't to bring a new rope. Your job is simply to grab one of those loose strings and pull. Let's look at a concrete example to show you exactly how this works in practice. Let's say you ask someone, "What did you do this weekend?" And they reply, "Not much, honestly. I just stayed in, ordered some pizza, and watched a documentary about Mount Everest." If you are in interview mode, you might say, "Oh, cool," and the conversation dies. But if you are using the threading technique, you need to look at that sentence again. That single sentence is a gold mine. It has at least 4 distinct threads you can pull. Thread number 1, the relaxation thread. They said they just stayed in. This implies they might have had a busy week, or maybe they are an introvert. You can pull that thread. You could say, "That sounds amazing. Sometimes you just need to recharge. Was it a crazy week at work?" Thread number 2, the food thread. They mentioned pizza. Everyone has an opinion on food. You can pull that thread. Okay, crucial question. What is your go-to pizza order? Are we talking classic pepperoni? Or are you one of those pineapple people? Thread number 3, the subject thread. They mentioned Mount Everest. This is a topic thread. You can ask, "Everest? That is intense. I've always been fascinated by mountain climbing. Would you ever want to do something that extreme?" Thread number 4, the genre thread. They mentioned watching a documentary. You can pivot to media. "I love documentaries. I feel like I learn more from them than I ever did in school. Have you seen Free Solo?" Do you see what just happened? From one simple throwaway sentence, we just generated 4 completely different conversations. We could talk about work-life balance, culinary preferences, extreme travel, or film. And the best part? You didn't have to come up with a new topic. You didn't have to memorize a list of 101 interesting questions. All you had to do was listen. The reason this works so well is rooted in psychology. When you thread a conversation, you are proving to the other person that you are actually listening. You aren't just waiting for your turn to speak. You are validating what they just said. You are taking their contribution and saying, "This is interesting enough to explore." That builds rapport instantly. Now, let's level up. Because threading isn't just about reacting, it is also about how you speak. If you want to be a master conversationalist, you have to help the other person thread you. You have to give them hooks. If someone asks you, "Where are you from?" and you just say New York, you are giving them a smooth rope with no loose ends. You are making it hard for them. You are forcing them to do the work. Instead, you need to provide hooks. So, when they ask, "Where are you from?" don't just say the city. Say the city plus a feeling or a detail. Say, "I'm from New York, but I'm actually trying to move out soon because I really miss being around nature." Boom. You just gave them two huge threads. They can ask about New York, or they can ask about nature and where you want to move. Or say, "I'm from New York, born and raised, which means I walk way too fast and I have zero patience for bad bagels." Now you've given them a humor thread and a food thread. When you start speaking in threads, you become incredibly easy to talk to. People will walk away from a conversation with you thinking, "Wow, we just clicked instantly." But they won't realize it's because you were constantly giving them handle holds to keep the conversation climbing. But I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, "Okay, but what if they give me nothing? What if I ask how their day was and they just say good?" This is the ultimate boss battle of conversation. The one-word answer. How do you thread a single word? Technically, you can't, but you can use a technique I call the assumption thread. If they give you a dead end, you don't ask another question. You make a playful assumption based on the vibe. If they say good in a tired voice, you say, "You sound like good actually means I need a coffee IV drip immediately. Long day?" If they say good in a cheerful voice, you say, "Okay, that sounded like a suspicious amount of energy for a Tuesday. Did you win the lottery or something?" By making an assumption, you are forcing a reaction. You are turning a dead end into a playful accusation that they have to either confirm or deny. And suddenly, you are back in the flow. Let's look at one more advanced application of this. I call it deep threading. Surface threading is about facts: pizza, travel, movies. Deep threading is about emotions and values. This is how you move from small talk to real talk. Let's go back to the Mount Everest example. They said, "I watched a documentary about Mount Everest." Surface thread. Is it cold there? Deep thread. I feel like people who climb Everest are searching for something. What do you think drives someone to take a risk like that? See the difference? The first one is about the mountain. The second one is about human nature. When you listen for the emotion behind the words, rather than just the words themselves, you open up a path to genuine connection. If someone mentions they are renovating their house, the surface thread is asking about paint colors. The deep thread is asking, "Is it stressful living in a construction zone? How do you stay sane?" You are acknowledging the human experience underneath the topic. So, here is your homework. The next time you are in a conversation, I want you to visualize the words coming out of the other person's mouth as text bubbles. Look for the nouns. Look for the adjectives. Look for the feelings. Pick one. Just one. And ask about it. "I'm going to visit my mom in Florida." Don't say, "Cool." Thread mom. "Are you guys close?" Thread Florida. "How do you handle the humidity?" Thread visit. "Do you travel a lot?" It sounds simple, and it is, but it changes everything. When you master the art of threading, you stop worrying about what to say next, because the answer is always right in front of you, hidden in the last thing they said. You stop performing, and you start connecting. And that is how you keep a conversation going forever. Not by being the most interesting person in the room, but by being the most interested. Go out there and start pulling some threads. You might be surprised where they lead you.